زيارة السيدة فاطمة، أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا ممتحنة امتحنك الله الذي خلقك قبل أن يخلقك، فوجدك لما امتحنك صابرا، وزعمنا أن لك أولياء ومصدقون وصابرون لكل ما أتانا به أبوك صلى الله عليه وآله وأتى به وصيه، فإنا نسألك إن كنا صدقنا إلا ألحقتنا بتصديقنا لهما، لنبشر أنفسنا بأننا قد طهرنا بولايتك. السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله، السلام عليك يا بنت نبي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا بنت خليل الله، السلام عليك يا بنت صفي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت أمين الله، السلام عليك يا بنت خير خلق الله، السلام عليك يا بنت أفضل أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته، السلام عليك يا بنت خير البرية، السلام عليك يا سيدة نساء العالمين من الأولين والآخرين، السلام عليك يا زوجة ولي الله وخير الخلق بعد رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أم الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام عليك أيتها الصديقة الشهيدة، السلام عليك أيتها الرضية المرضية، السلام عليك أيتها الفاضلة الزكية، السلام عليك أيتها الحوراء الإنسية، السلام عليك أيتها التقية النقية، السلام عليك أيتها المحدثة العليمة، السلام عليك أيتها المظلومة المغصوبة، السلام عليك أيتها المضطهدة المقهورة، السلام عليك يا فاطمة بنت رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، صلى الله عليك وعلى روحك وبدنك. أشهد أنك مضيت على بينة من ربك، وأن من سرك فقد سر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن جفاك فقد جفا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن أذاك فقد أذى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن وصلك فقد وصل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن قطعك فقد قطع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، لأنك بضعة منه وروحه الذي بين جنبي. أشهد الله ورسله وملائكته أني راض عمن رضيت عنه، ساخط على من سخطت عليه، متبرئ ممن تبرأت منه، موال لمن واليت، معاد لمن عاديت، مبغض لمن أبغضت، محب لمن أحببت. وكفى بالله شهيدا وحسيبا وجازيا ومثيبا. السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله، السلام عليك يا بنت نبي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا بنت خليل الله، السلام عليك يا بنت صفي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت أمين الله، السلام عليك يا بنت خير خلق الله، السلام عليك يا بنت أفضل أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته، السلام عليك يا بنت خير البرية، السلام عليك يا سيدة نساء العالمين من الأولين والآخرين، السلام عليك يا زوجة ولي الله وخير الخلق بعد رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أم الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام عليك أيتها الصديقة الشهيدة، السلام عليك أيتها الرضية المرضية، السلام عليك أيتها الفاضلة الزكية، السلام عليك أيتها الحوراء الإنسية، السلام عليك أيتها التقية النقية، السلام عليك أيتها المحدثة العليمة، السلام عليك أيتها المظلومة المغصوبة، السلام عليك أيتها المضطهدة المقهورة، السلام عليك يا فاطمة بنت رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، صلى الله عليك وعلى روحك وبدنك. أشهد أنك مضيت على بينة من ربك، وأن من سرك فقد سر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن جفاك فقد جفا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن أذاك فقد أذى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن وصلك فقد وصل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، ومن قطعك فقد قطع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله، لأنك بضعة منه وروحه الذي بين جنبي. أشهد الله وملائكته أني ولي لمن والاك، وعدو لمن عاداك، وحرب لمن حاربك. أنا يا مولاتي بك وبأبيك وبعلك والأئمة من ولدك موقن، وبولايتهم مؤمن، ولطاعتهم ملتزم. أشهد أن الدين دينهم والحكم حكمهم، وهم قد بلغوا عن الله عز وجل ودعوا إلى سبيل الله بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة، ليتخذوهم في الله لومة لائم. وصلوات الله عليك وعلى أبيك وبعلك وذريتك الأئمة الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، وصل على البتول الطاهرة الصديقة المعصومة التقية النقية الرضية المرضية الزكية الرشيدة المظلومة المقهورة المغصوبة حقها الممنوعة إرثها المكسورة ضلعها المظلوم بعلها المقتول ولدها فاطمة بنت رسولك وبضعة لحمه وصميم قلبه وفلذة كبده والنخبة من كلاه والتحفة قصصت بها وصيا وحبيبة المصطفى وقرينة المرتضى وسيدة النساء ومبشرة الأولياء حليفة الورع والزهد وتفاحة الفردوس والخلد التي شرفت مولدها بنساء الجنة وسللت منها أنوار الأئمة وأرخيت دونها حجاب النبوة. اللهم صل عليها صلاة تزيد في محلها عندك وشرفها لديك ومنزلتها من رضاك، وبلغها منا تحية وسلاما، وآتنا من لدنك في حبها فضلا وإحسانا ورحمة وغفرانا، إنك ذو العفو الكريم. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
Ahsan Sayyid, can we please recite another loud salawat for his well-being? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My condolences unto you all and to all the Muslim Ummah and to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Zaman, on the martyrdom anniversary of the Lady of Light, Sayyidah Fatimiyyeh al-Zahra alayhi salam. I ask all those in attendance at the center to please observe some of our COVID safety precaution rules, to please make sure you're registered at the front desk upon entry as it is essential. Masks are highly encouraged, however only optional, and to please follow proper social distance by sitting on the marked spots throughout the center. We thank you all for your assistance during these difficult times. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, inshallah. I now ask we recite a loud salawat as we welcome Brother Adam Saleh to come up and bless this evening with a few verses from the Holy Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى وأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. صدق الله العلي صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Can we please recite another loud salawat for that beautiful recitation? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before we continue with the program, we at IHIC would just like to thank all of you for attending and all the volunteers, those who have donated their time and money to allow for these holy nights of Fatimiyyeh to happen. Without them, these holy nights could not have been possible. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless every single one of them, and I ask we all recite one loud salawat for their blessings. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I now ask Sister Zahra Zalgud to come up for a short poem. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brandishing their torches, they stood outside her home. Come out, plead thy elegance, we want power for our own. The assailants pounded even harder, and against the door they thrust between the wall and entrance our flower, she was crushed. The assault, it wasn't over, of the lady mild and meek. The enemies of her husband struck her hard across the cheek. She cried out loud, "O Father, they snapped the stem of your bud." She miscarried her unborn infant and fainted in her blood. Her health rapidly diminished. Our Lady grew quite pale. She knew her time was coming. She ached and she was frail. She later called upon her husband, "Ali, stay by my side. I have something to tell you. My word you must abide. One request that I have for you is that once again you wed my niece who loves my children. I have chosen in my stead. Heed those words of mine. O husband, please don't let them attend my funeral, those who've done this to me. When my life comes to its end, O Ali, when you entomb me, don't dig a lonely grave, dig several all around me, so they don't know where I'm laid. And husband dear, you wash me and wrap me in my shroud. With your two strong arms embrace me and lay me in the ground. Once I'm there, do not forsake me. Sit by my lonely tomb, as my soul, like any mortal's, in fearful of its own. This maybe will console you of this world. I will be free. She asked for her new garments and camphor her father had given, the scent of paradise that brought as a gift to him from heaven. As night she made her ablution and towards the Qibla lay to die. She addressed her companion Azma, on her lips a secret smile. I am fatigued and want to rest, call me in a while. After an hour, when Azma called her, silence was the reply. She knew her desert flower had wilted and had died. As the news spread through the city, wailing women gathered near, and men impatient to carry the body of Zahra dear. Abu Dar called to the people, "Please, in vain don't you wait. Her body can't be buried, as it is very late." When quietly in the moonlight, with the chosen one by his side, silently they bore the coffin of Ali's holy bride. And as Ali lowered his body to find his place to rest, her arms, just like the Prophet's, gathered to her breast. Inconsolably grieving, Ali's courageous heart then broke, and he gathered at his motherless children, all fearful beneath his cloak. At the break of dawn, the house was great silent. As promised, he didn't disclose nor answer any questions of where he buried his Arabian rose. Salawat.
Thank you, Sister Zahra. Can we please recite another loud salawat for her blessing? Tonight, as you know, we commemorate the death anniversary of the daughter of the Holy Prophet, Sayyidah Fatimiyyeh Zahra alayhi salam. It is crucial during these nights we not just remember her death, but we also remember and reflect on her life. It is from looking into her life we see why she is so great. You ask some, why is Sayyidah Fatima so great? And they say it is because she is the daughter of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. This is correct, yet still wrong. Her greatness, yes, stems from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. However, her greatness is because throughout her life, she always upheld the greatest morals, the greatest ethics, the greatest qualities, and represented Islam in the purest way possible. That is why she is so great. I pray on these holy nights we continue to learn from the life of Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam so that we may live a life that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah that He make us all amongst the pure lovers of Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam, and that He make us amongst her followers that she would be proud of, inshallah. I now ask we recite 3 loud salawat as we welcome Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi to come up for tonight's lecture. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن ولا ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعته وبايعته وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا اللهم لعن قتلة فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Every year, not once and not twice, but 3 separate occasions, we gather to commemorate the martyrdom of Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when we travel to Medina, not once, not twice, but 3 separate places we visit and read a ziyarah at the supposed grave. One thing that you know from this, that the daughter of the most beloved prophet to Allah, the seal of prophets, that we know even when his grandson Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was martyred, and there on about where the others were martyred, but in the case of Fatima we don't know. And we know even where the infant son of the Prophet Ibrahim, who died at the age of 1.5 years, we know where he's buried in Medina. He has a grave that no one knows much about Ibrahim. We know where he is buried, yet we do not know where the grave of Fatima alayha salam is. Yet every year the same naysayers get up and they question the story of Fatima. It's something that's recurring. I could set this for the next year and the year after, 10 years, 100 years, the same arguments will be represented. The same obscurities, the same suspicions will be will arise every Fatimiyyeh season. And as a prelude, I must mention that firstly, when a suspicion is drawn about something, about an actual issue that exists, sometimes the suspicion or the contention exists about the actual issue. And other times the contention and the suspicion exists about particular details pertaining to the issue. So sometimes I have a doubt about an actual event taking place. Other times I have doubts about details of this event. When I have these suspicions or these obscurities, these things that turn up, these ishkalat, if you will, in Arabic, that turn up, is there a difference between the two? When I have my doubts about an event and the doubts about details of the event, yes, there is a difference. Because in either case, we will have a different outcome. So if we take a look at, in one of the situations, if we take a look at, for example, one of the legends or the folk tales, for example, in the United Kingdom, is the story of a man that used to steal from the rich and give to the poor, and that man was Robin Hood. We hear the tale of Robin Hood, that he was living in Sherwood Forest. He used to terrorize the sheriff of Nottingham. He had a band of merry men. He had a dead eye with a bow and arrow. He had a damsel in distress, the beautiful maid Marian, and all these details. But if I go back and I am suspicious of Robin Hood even existing, then all the details after that fall apart. Friar Tuck and the rest didn't exist. That's all that happens. No one existed because Robin Hood didn't exist. Isn't that right? So my contention is with the origin of the issue. Then what? If I can prove that Robin Hood didn't exist, then every detail pertaining to Robin Hood is rendered null. It's void. It has no meaning whatsoever. Now, sometimes the suspicions are about particular details of an incident. For example, if we take a look at the Nazi concentration camps, okay, which the term that has been coined is the Holocaust, and people, sarmudewal, as we say in Arabic, it's become a common term. Generally, when someone says Holocaust, they'll say, this doesn't hold a candle to the genocide that's happening to the Palestinians in the last 60 or so years. You know, if you want to say Holocaust, this doesn't hold a candle, and even that, the Palestinians doesn't hold a candle to the systematic genocide that's been happening to the Shia for the last 1400 years, from Fatima al-Zahra to now. But let's take a look. If you talk about the Nazi concentration camps, some people find a few contentions and they adopt the opinion of David Irving to say it didn't happen. Now, if my contentions are with particular details, if my suspicions are about the number of Jews that were killed in concentration camps, if my contention is about the method employed to kill the Jews in the concentration camps, if my contention is about them being killed en masse, does that mean that the concentration camps did not exist? No. I can't reject that they existed. They did exist. Because my issue is not with the actual Nazi concentration camps that targeted anyone that they despised. My contention is with the actual particulars, the details that are there. So then the issue did happen, but the details are in contention. Although there may have not been 6 million Jews killed, but they were killed, say, with cyanide gas. Do you understand what I mean? So I can't say what didn't happen because it wasn't 6 million. I say it was. It did happen, yes. You know, I look at Sobibor and Auschwitz and that, and I know that these places actually existed and they were used for this. So I can't just deny it like the people that deny this taking place. So if I prove with the aforementioned issue with Robin Hood that he didn't exist, then the whole story didn't happen. And in this case, if I prove that one of the things in the Nazi concentration camps didn't happen, then it does not mean the whole thing didn't happen, just that particular detail. But if someone uses or disproves a certain aspect of a story, okay, then denies the entirety of the story due to that certain aspect, we call this sophistry. When someone uses a fallacious or false method in reasoning. You know, they say because of this, then that. You know, if I disprove this, you know, where someone comes up and says, I'll give you an example of it. Where someone comes up to you and says, you people can't agree on the Eid, therefore the Maraja are wrong and it's all wrong. Something like that, that's it, it's the end of their life. They're one step away from committing suicide because things aren't working out. It's the end of the world. If I cannot agree with a particular detail, sure, everything becomes invalid? No. And this is what happens with the story of Fatima alayhi salam. The tragedy of Fatima alayhi salam is one of the purest examples of this. And those that deny the tragedy of Fatima, okay, they will say, for argument's sake, they will say we cannot prove that the rib of Fatima was broken. Does that then mean that Fatima did not miscarry Muhsin? Does that mean that Fatima did not get slapped? Does that mean that Fatima did not get whipped? Does that mean that the house was not set on fire if I reject one thing? No. Just because one detail becomes negated, it doesn't mean the whole issue becomes negated. It does not mean that Fatima was not oppressed. Someone comes up and says, all right, there was no Muhsin. Muhsin didn't exist. Okay, but does that mean that the door wasn't set on fire? The house wasn't attacked? If I deny one particular detail, I can't just say the whole story didn't exist. And that's what the same method that is used in their term, the Holocaust deniers, people like David Irving, that's what they do. Because they hate Jews. David Irving's a proper anti-Semite with the full term, so he denies the Holocaust existed. And the same thing with the people that deny the attack of Fatima. They deny it because their intention is because they have a secret, hidden agenda when it comes to the companions of the Prophet. There's some hidden love within that they want to exonerate them from the crime that they committed. Why would I say this? Am I being villainous? Am I being, by saying this, am I defaming these people? No. On the contrary, because those that deny the tragedy and the calamity of Fatima are clutching at straws. You know when I say they're clutching at straws? And they're trying to hang on to something to breathe. Why? Because there is consensus amongst the Muslims that this event took place. You go look at historical books, Sunni and Shia, say this event happened. In fact, when in Tariq al-Tabari, which is the most authentic books of history for Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Tariq al-Tabari says that the companions that were in question here, and he mentions them by name. Of them he says Umar ibn al-Khattab came to the house of Fatima and said, "O Fatima, by Allah we love you most." Look at the contradiction in this statement. "But we will set your house on fire if it remains harboring collaborators against and rebels." Imagine saying to someone, "Look, I love you, but I'm going to set your house on fire." Contradiction in that. So some of the commentators will say, "Oh, this is contentious." But other ulama say, no, he was known to be someone of hot temper. He has a history of having a hot temper. In fact, if you read the history, a lot of people don't read history. And see, the Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah don't mind when you say history. Do you say history as it is? They're okay with it. Just don't slander, don't abuse, don't swear. And that's what we do. Someone comes up later and goes, oh, for the sake of unity, you shouldn't mention this. No. This is disunity when you don't mention this. Because then the Sunni, you know what he says? He says that you use taqiyya, you're hiding, you're lying, and then they say taqiyya for what it's not. Because then it becomes outright lying. He says, no, say what happens in history, and it's up to their discernment to accept it or not. Because some of them will say, yes, Omar did this, may Allah forgive him. This is what they'll say. They'll say, he did this, but Allah may forgive him. Like, I'll give you a good example where a Sunni historian says, Khalid ibn al-Walid killed Malik ibn Nuwayra. They say this. And then raped his wife. I'm using strong terms. That's what he did. On the first night that he murdered him. And if you look at the way he murdered him, it will make the hairs on your neck stand. When he came to him, when Khalid ibn Walid, who wanted, see, this is known, that he wanted Malik's wife from before. He had an eye for her. So Abu Bakr sent him with an army to collect money of Malik. When he arrived, Malik got arms. Malik was a soldier of Sahabat Rasulullah, of the finest, and of Ashab Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. He prepared himself to fight. When Khalid arrived, he said, why have you... Because Khalid wasn't a courageous person. Whenever they talk about Khalid, they make him courageous. He wasn't like Marhab and Abdullah. Yeah, they call him Saifullah al-Maslul. He wasn't Saifullah al-Maslul. When they want to talk about his prowess, they talk about what he did to the Muslims in Uhud. But other than that, he wasn't known. Like other fighters that were known, no, there was other people. Like when you talk about Abu Jahl could fight. When you talk about Walid ibn Utbah or Shayba or Utbah, they all could fight. They were warriors, they were champions of Quraysh. But Khalid wasn't a champion. In fact, he got scared when he arrived, and this is fact. I'm telling you, historical fact. So he said to Malik ibn Nuwayra, he said, we're not here for war. We're not here to fight. We're here as your guests. You're going to shed blood, pull out your sword. And so Malik said, if you're here as guests, he put a banquet for them, sit down. When he had put down his weapons and invited them, when they sat, they got up and they massacred them. They waited. You know, when someone says to you, for example, I'm not here to fight, I'm your friend, you know, and they say something nice, and you know how you just drop your guard, and then a king hits you, which we call now what? A coward punch. When you hit someone when they're not ready for it. This is so cowardly. Because a man faces another man face to face. This is what we call chivalry. You know, when they say chivalry is dead, chivalry is this. A man, when he stands up like a man, not like a coward, and he slaughters Malik ibn Nuwayra and his family and the people with him, and like I said, he takes his wife and he rapes his wife. Do you know what they say about this? Ijtahada fa'akhta. He did ijtihad and he made a mistake. You know? What can we do? See, when I sit there and I read something la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah like this, and then people sit there and they want to exonerate people like Khalid ibn al-Walid. How can I even think about this? How can I say this? That these people, and he was one of the main perpetrators on the house of Fatima. These people that have courage when it comes to women. They don't know how to face when it comes to men. They know a lot of the people that were present were of those that ran in Uhud. They were present at this point. So like I said, it is a question of, when we look at this consensus on the attack of the house of Fatima. No one denies it. So for someone to deny it, it's ludicrous. Now, one of the things that they bring up of contention, and I hear this every year, besides there's a lot of ridiculous things they bring up, like, you know, when they say there wasn't doors at that time. Have you heard that one before? People say there wasn't doors at that time. And I say, hold on, well, when I read Surah Yusuf, which was about 2,000 years before this incident, it says, وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. She locked the doors. So 2,000 years before the Prophet, there were doors with locks. But the time of Fatima, there was no doors. There was no doors. They said they had curtains. So everyone had curtains. There was no doors. And then they would say, hold on, there was no nails. Say, well, the Iron Age hasn't come to Islam by then. So they must have been using cardboard swords. God knows what they were using. This is the arguments they bring. It's a for me to even mention these arguments. They're so ridiculous. But the way that they do it, how do you think they pass the narrative? It's the way they give the narrative. See, if I was to give you atheist arguments right now, you'd sit and laugh. Really. Because if you see their arguments, it's the way they deliver them that makes it attractive. It's their deliverance. Deliverance is key. It's the way I bring it forward. And this is what they will do. You've been in this scenario. Now you see, they'll sit down and they'll tell you, hold on. You're at home one day. I remember one guy, he told me this story. One of these people that doesn't believe in the attack of Fatima. He said to me, back in the days, this is overseas, not here. He said, our house was being attacked. He said, so I said to my wife and my children to hide in the bedroom, and I grabbed the AK-47. Back then they said the Kalashnikov. You know, obviously a Kalashnikov is better than AK-47, but that's another story. So he said, I grabbed the Kalashnikov, and he said, I went to the door to protect my family. Then you expect me to believe that Imam Ali cowered, C-O-W-E-R-E-D, not coward as in the noun, that he went and hid and sent his wife to answer the door. See how they give you the narrative? So your ghira comes in, your hamiyah. No way, Imam Ali would never do this. See, the way I give you the story, the narrative, the way it's given affects the way you react. This is one of the biggest problems. When I give you the narrative in that method, that's how you're going to automatically attack. Now the question is, if you're at home and someone knocks on the door, who answers the door, you or your wife? We're talking about in general, in an Arab sense. Today, in a Western culture, everyone tells someone else to answer the door. You know, go see who's at the door. No one really wants to get the door. But I'm talking in an Arab culture. The man answers the door. This is what's known. Because you do not know who is about to enter. Now, the question they'll bring up, would you accept for your wife to open the door not to a foreign man, but to foreign men? When we say foreign, non-mahram, that's what we mean by foreign. Foreign doesn't mean someone from another city. Foreign means a man that cannot see a woman without a hijab. Number one. And imagine that these people were what? They were assailants. Assailants meaning what? People intent on attacking you. People intent on assaulting you. This is what we're talking about. So would you actually let your wife answer the door for this? And if you don't accept this, how can you accept this for Imam Ali? Once again, the narrative. It's been played with. Why is it being played with? So you can accept the argument they're about to deliver. You can accept. That's why, once again, I'll go back to atheism, where they want to mock. For example, they say, you know, a classic Dawkins argument where he says, do you believe in the talking snake? And he wants to push it across, and then when someone does, he laughs, and then he throws out the multiverse theory. Is this guy serious? He brings up something that cannot possibly be proven. And it's so ridiculous. What's a multiverse theory? I'll give it to you. Multiverse theory means there's an infinite amount of universes. We don't even know how our universe is, but this guy's come up with this theory. An infinite amount of universes that through some random equation, every random one of these universes has one Earth, a planet that breeds life. And you think, what? And he's worried about a talking snake. And this he accepts. That's how people are. And the way he'll deliver it, you'll say, yeah, that sounds better because it's scientific. Because a scientist said it. That's how people become. If you notice when someone will sit there and I've seen people ask doctors for advice on when I say doctor, I mean general practitioners, medical professionals, about buying shares. Because he's a doctor, they think they can ask him about anything. But when a sheikh says something to them, or a sayyid, or rajul din, says something, they'll question it. They say, why? How did he come up with this opinion? Where did he come up with this opinion? And then they want to give their own opinion. In my opinion, you should say my humble opinion to begin with, because it is a humble opinion. If you didn't get it, then you didn't get it. So when you want to give your opinion, you have to know what you're talking about. So they play with the narrative in order to sell you the idea. Firstly, like I said, the argument's built upon a false narrative. Who says that Fatima rose to answer the door and open the door? Who says that? This is the first thing. Did Fatima get up to open and answer the door? Who says this? Give me one narration that says that's what she got up to. If she got up to answer the door, she got up without her khimar, without her covering. How many women that wear hijab go to the door to open without hijab? Who goes to the door to open without hijab? That's the first thing. But here, let's take a look at what one of the exegete, someone's written the exegesis tafsir, Al-IHIC, the famous IHIC, narrates in this narration that he says, فَرَأَتْهُمْ فَاطِمَةٌ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهَا. She saw them coming towards the house. I don't know what means they were coming towards the house. She says, أَغْلَقَتِ الْبَابِ. She locked the door. فِي وُجُوهِهِمْ. So before they even got there, in their faces. So the one, وَهِيَ لَا تَشُكُّ أَنْ لَا يُدْخَلْ عَلَيْهَا إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهَا. So when she locked the door, she had no doubt that they would enter the house without her permission. Why? Why would she think like this? Because the greatest creation of Allah, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, who would not, sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, Rasulullah, who has access to everything, yea, the world is for him, would stand outside this door and seek permission to enter. He would say salam. And in the house, everyone was his mahram. She knew there's no one that would dare, if they are Muslims. Didn't say the Zainab alayhi salam on the day of judgment. On the day of Ashura. What did she say when they were going to kill Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? She said, Ama fiikum Muslim? Is there not a Muslim amongst you? If you are a Muslim, she said, these are Muslims, they won't break the law of the Prophet and enter the house without permission. This is the first one. The second one is from a Sunni narration. He says, فَجَمَعُوا الْحَطَبِ. They brought the hatab together, the wood outside the house. Okay, they brought this dry wood. He says, عَلَى بَابِنَا. And this is narrated on Fatima that she says this. وَأَتَوْا بِالنَّارِ لِيُحْرِقُوهُ. So they brought it to burn the door, and then she says, وَيُحْرِقُونَا, and to burn us. This is why they bought it. She says, فَوَقَفْتُ بِعَضَادَةِ الْبَابِ. She says, I stood where? Adadat means, the door jambs, the edges, that's where she stood. She stood by the door jamb, not even at the door. She says, why? She says, وَنَاشَدْتُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَبِأَبِي أَنْ يَكُفُّوا عَنَّا وَيَنْصُرُونَ. She said, I stood there, not at the door, by the jamb, on the side, and I called them by Allah and His Messenger to stop and to actually aid us. Not only stop, but to aid us. These are clear narrations that prove that she did not get up to open the door. The first shows that she locked the door. The second shows that she stood by the jamb. She only stood up to remind them of her status and who she was. Now, you are now entitled to ask the following question. And people are going to ask me, all right, she didn't get up to answer the door. She got up to call them. Why didn't the Imam get up and call them? Why her? Why did she rise? Why is she the one that gets up to the door? Why isn't it Imam Ali alayhi salam? Let's begin here with talking firstly about the allegiance, the bay'ah. There were two bay'ahs. There was the secret bay'ah, the one that was done under the shed, Saqifa, Bani Sa'ida, the secret bay'ah. That was like the if you ever look at the Nicene Creed, you know, the meeting they had at Nicaea to put the Bible together, it was pretty much a fist fight. This was close to it. That they actually fought, and this is not in jest. This is what took place in order for Abu Bakr to take the bay'ah, because the Ansar did not accept. But when they took this secret bay'ah, then they moved to stage 2, which they went to get a general bay'ah. And the general bay'ah wasn't a bay'ah, just to give you an idea. People always ask, what is a bay'ah? A bay'ah is basically where the leader puts out his hand. You put your hand either under his hand, because he's on top of you. And then when you shake, you are saying what? I accept you as my leader. That's what you bay'ah. That you are my leader now. So they have to do a public bay'ah. See, with the bay'ah of Rasulullah, it was a democratic, if you say bay'ah. You could bay'ah or not, it's up to you. And the people rushed to give bay'ah. But with the bay'ah of Abu Bakr, it wasn't. They actually went looking for you and brought you back to the mosque. Who was a famous Sahabi? Go find him, bring him back. They bring some people by the sword, they bring some people by money. You know, everyone has their medicine. Everyone runs to something. You know, when you give them an offer, you should see people. At first they say, I won't be bought. You know, you've seen that? Who was it? Sometimes you get, there's too many of these companions where one of them actually, the name will come back to me, where when Muawiyah said to him to make a false narration about Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he offered him, and this was a companion, 200,000 dirhams, and he said, I will not sell my religion. And so Muawiyah said, 100,000 dirhams. He said, I will not sell my religion. Then Muawiyah said, I'll give you 200,000 dirhams. He said, I told you I would never sell my religion. Then Muawiyah said, I'll give you 400,000 dirhams. He said, all right, what do you want me to say? Depends on how much you pay. Comes to money, people too. Because he shouldn't have even entertained the thought. This is why people end up collaborating with the Zionists. How do they collaborate? Do you know how they do it? They listen to the offer. You're not even supposed to listen to the offer. If they want to give you an offer, you don't listen, because do you know why you don't listen? Because you're a human being. Because when you actually see the offer, you go, you know what? My life will look different with this. You're a human being. You'll succumb to this. So you don't listen. You don't listen. If I listen to the offer, I'll turn. So these people, they bought them, and what they do? They came and they gave them the offers, come and give allegiance, and they forced them. Everyone had given allegiance, except who? Ali ibn Abi Talib, and that's the main one. That's the main bay'ah. That's the allegiance of allegiance. Why? Because that's the proper leader. That's who you want. What do you think when a junta comes in and overthrows a leader? They kill them. Why? Because they don't want him to get back up. They've got to make sure he's gone. So they make sure he gives bay'ah. He's the main one. So he was the only one that was left, and some of the faithful companions. So they told the people that these people are dissidents. These people are rebels. They want to overthrow Abu Bakr and take his illegitimately conceived Khalifat. So the first proof of this is, if you remember, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima, if you've heard the story, had went from house to house in Medina to remind them of the rightfulness of the Khalifa to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Number one. Number two, what else had they done? They asked the people for their support. That's what they had done. So this is proof to these people that they're plotting against them. Number two, that they told the people that Imam Ali has a group of men in his house that are plotting, they're conspirators. They're plotting to do what? To overthrow the Khalif. And this house has this. So then the house of Imam Ali would be considered what? A house that harbors what? Rebels. You've heard this narrative before. That's what Allah. Do you remember the attack on Afghanistan? Why the attack on Afghanistan? They said this country harbors terrorism, Al Qaeda, and everyone said, yep, just blow them up. So you've heard this narrative. It always happens. I want to kill somebody. What do I do? What do I do? I just make some false narrative. And that's what they've done. So let's go attack. Let's attack the house of Ali. Now, listen to this. This is very important. If Ali ibn Abi Talib got up to answer the door or tell them where to go, the people say what they're saying is correct. This house is full of conspirators. They are plotting. So the last thing in the world you would get is a man to get up and answer. To respond to them, Fatima got out. And you wanted the proof of this? That when Fatima alayha salam stood up to tell them, فَقَالُوا, the narration, إِنَّ فِي الدَّارِ Fatima. Why would they say إِنَّ فِي الدَّارِ Fatima? Because they had been told it's a house of conspirators. They said in the house is Fatima, and it says a big group of them left. This is a lie. We've been lied to. Then Umar ibn Khattab said, وَإِن, it's even so. We are here for this. And this is what we do. And they said the same thing when they said the fire when? In Karbala. They said burn the tents of who? The unbelievers. Burn the house of these unbelievers. And this is where it comes from. So for someone to even question, this is wrong. And the only intention is to exonerate these people, to absolve them of a crime that they have committed, and they will be brought to trial for this crime. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those that call for the right of Fatima alayhi salam under the standard of our master, and the one that will take vengeance for every blood that has been spilled in oppression. Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, أرواحنا فداه والحمد لله رب العالمين وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة السلام عليك وعلى ضلعك المكسور. السلام على الضلع المكسور ورا الباب والضلع بكربلاء. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين أجركم الله. السلام على الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. تبتم وتابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Oh Father, when will the day arrive where we will be reunited? Oh Father, I have something to tell you about what they have done to your dear daughter. Look how they attended your door. They attended it holding holding fire. They burned the door and I stood behind it. Yet then they broke the door on my Oh Father, they squashed me behind the door. Fatima, that man saw my pain but pushed it more. Oh Father, they slapped your daughter on the face. Yeah, oh Father, now I have a bruise on my face. بسمار على عيني يمر النوم. بسمار شد ما شفت من دنياي. بسمار على عيني يمر النوم. بسمار وحملي وقع مني على الوتية. وحملي وقع مني على الوتية. عظم الله لكم الأجر. After the attack on the door of Sayyidah Zahra Salamullahi alayha, brothers and sisters, let's send our condolences to Sahib al-Zaman on this evening. عظم الله لك الأجر Sayyidi, for the loss of your dear grandmother Fatima, for the loss of your dear Muhsin, that Muhsin that was martyred in the attack of the purest ladies to walk this earth, As-Siddiqat al-Tahira Fatima. She would have a dream that Rasulullah was telling her, oh my daughter Fatima, our reunion is close. After or before the attack on the door, Fatima in some narrations would go to the grave of Rasulullah. It is as if we are in her shoes, as she would complain to her father, boy, ya Amar ala abda darabni ومن ضربته للقاع عذبني ولا انكسر قلبي ولا رحمني. وينك يا ابويا رحت عني؟ بويا جيتك بويا جيتك ابكي يام قبرك يا غالي. بويا جيتك حزن بعدك بقالي. بويا جيتك قعد واشوف سجرالي. انا زهرة ريت لي يا ابويا التحية. انا زهرة بذحتك شفت الأذية. أنا زهرة جيتك بحين الرزية. Fatima would return ill to the house and she would stay like this for some time until her state would worsen. She would call her family around her, begin to give her wasiyah. Imam Ali would have Fatima's head in his lap. Fatima would say to Ali, Ya Ali, هذا وقت الوصية ولا وقت التعزية. Oh Ali, this is the time for the wasiyah, not for the mourning. She would begin the wasiyah. Ya Ali, through the time that we have spent together, if I have had any shortcomings, please forgive me. Imam Ali would reply, Ya Fatima, I have not seen anything but beauty from you. Oh Ali, bury me in the night when people are sleeping. I don't want anyone who attacked me, who took my muhsin, who took my rights away from me to attend my funeral or to know where I am buried. Oh Ali, أعلم أني طاهرة. Oh Ali, watch me while I am clothed, for I have been purified. Little does Ali know why she requested this. مصايب فاطمة عظامي بدنها وحس البيت صار ظلام بدنها. أنا من غسلت بيدي بدنها كسر قلبي كسر ذي العزكية. يا كسر قلبي كسر ذي العزكية. Then she would say to Ali, Ya Ali, read the Quran at my grave. Then she would give her will to her children, Al-Hassan and Hussein. Then she would give a special wasiyah to Zainab. She would say, Ya Zainab, there will come a day where your brother Hussein will be calling Hal min Nasirin ينصرني هل من ذاب يذب عن حرم رسول الله. He will be on his horse, ask him to get down, ask him to reveal his chest and neck. I want you to embrace his neck and chest. Why, oh mother? Because on that day his neck will be severed and his body will be trampled by the hooves of the horses. Oh Zainab, there will come a day, expose his chest and then say This is a will from Zahra to embrace his checklist and chair. They will sever his holy neck, and his body the hooves will wreck. They will leave him for 3 days, his body on the sand life. She would then finish from the wasiyyah. She would perform her ghusl. She would bath al-Hasanan. Then she would ask everyone to leave the house but Asma. There was only Asma and Sayyidah Zahra in the house. It was time for her to meet Rasulullah. She would say, Ya Asma, inni dakhilatun ila hujrati أقرأ القرآن إذا سمعت صوت خفض ناديني وإلا فاعلمي أني لحقت برسول الله. Oh Asma, I'm going to my hujra to read the Quran. If you don't hear it anymore, no, I have met رسول الله. تقول أسماء دخلت فاطمة حجرتها وصارت تقرأ القرآن وأنا أسمع القرآن بصوت فاطمة وما أجمل القرآن بصوت فاطمة. Asma says, I entered the hujra and she started to read the Quran, and how beautiful is the Quran in the voice of Fatima. Then some time would pass and Fatima's voice would go quiet. أيوة بنت رسول الله انكسر قلبي. I called from outside the room, يا سيدتي. She didn't answer. I called يا أم الحسن والحسين. There was no answer. I called يا زهراء. She didn't answer. I entered the room to find she has left this world. أين المنادي وفاطمة وسيدتا. Asma would throw herself onto Fatima, saying, send my salams to Rasulullah. She would then hear that Hasanan have returned to the house. She would try and distract them. Oh Hasan and Hussein, oh Hasan and Hussein, come and eat. Oh Asma, when do you know us to eat without our mother Fatima? Where is our dear mother Fatima? Your mother is sleeping. This is not the time for her sleep. This is the time for her ibadah. They would enter the room to find their mother Marmiya, her mother lying on the floor. And then Imam Hussein would throw himself onto his mother, calling Ummah, Kallimini, Ana Azizak al-Hussein. Then Hassan would turn to Hussein and say, Azzam Allahu lana al-ajr bi ummina Fatima. They would go and get their father. The narration say that when Ali would try to come back, when he would try to come back, he kept falling on the floor until he would reach the house. How could he look at Fatima? What words could he use to talk to Fatima? Fatimati, ya unsa al-umr kallimini Fatimati. آخر يا علي أسمعيني فاطمتي لأموت بصوتك الحزين فاطمتي شمس العمر لا تغيبي فاطمتي، يا وطن المرتضى الغريب فاطمتي، قولي لي بعد يا حبيبي فاطمتي، عن كثر الضلع سامحيني فاطمتي، عن لطم الخد اعذريني فاطمتي، بالمحسن لا تذكريني فاطمتي. The people would gather around the house of Ali. He would tell them to leave. He would go to wash the body of Sayyidah Zahra Salamullahi alayha. In the wasiyah she would ask to be washed while she is clothed. He would put her onto the mukhtasal. Asma narrates, she says Ali was washing the body of Sayyidah Zahra. He would all of a sudden leave the body of Sayyidah Fatima, sit in the corner of the room calling Aywa bint Rasulullah. He would begin to cry profusely. She would ask, Ya Sayyidi, Ya Sayyidi, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you teach us patience. What is this sin? لما وضعتها على المغتسل رأيت ضلعا من أضلاعها مكسورة. When I put her onto the mughtasal, I found that one of her ribs have been broken. يا قلب ذوبه اليد معي على اللي صاحت يفذ انكسر ضلعي. يا سيدتي يا أمير المؤمنين, when you were washing the body of Fatima, when you saw her body and it made you, and the state of her body made you leave and cry in the corner of a room, Ya Abul Hassan, that one rib of Fatima did this to you. One rib made you cry on the side of the room. If so, Ya Sayyidi, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, what if you saw the ribs that were completely crushed by the hooves of the horses of your son Hussein? ضلع واحد يا علي وحد حيلك كان ضلوع حسين شو تسوي لك؟ ضلع واحد ما قدرت حيدر تشوف شلون حالك لو انحاذر بالطفوف. شوف ابنك كيف دارت عليه السيوف بالرباح وشمرا يقبلها حيث الحسين على الثرى خيل العدا طحنت ضلوع. ما قال كسرت, قال طحنت ضلوع الحسين حيث الحسين على الثرى خيل العدا طحنت ضلوع. قتلته آل أمية ضامي إلى جنب الشريعة, قتلته آل أمية ضامي إلى جنب الشريعة. ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة, ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة, ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة. صوت ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة, لعالزهرة المظلومة, ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة, ويلي عالزهرة. Brothers, stand and make a circle. مظلومة ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة ويلي عالزهرة. Brothers, come forward, don't be shy. ويلي عالزهرة المظلومة. حسين 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 حسين. Brothers, come forward, make a circle in the middle. حسين 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 حسين. إلك يا حسين واحب حياتي. إلك يا حسين واحب حياتي. يا النور العين بيدك نجاتي. إلك يا حسين واحب حياتي. يا النور العين بيدك نجاتي. أنا دخرتك سيدي ساعة مماتي وأنت تحقق بالحشر في الأمنيات. أمنية دلالي فاطمة توديني أرد أقلها بمحشري ويا الخدم خليني. يا زهرة أقسم عليك بدمعتي يا زهرة راويني قيمة خدمتي. يا زهرة أقسم عليك بدمعتي يا زهرة راويني قيمة خدمتي. يا زهرة يا زهرة يا زهرة